Friends, welcome to the Summary Club, the channel of fast training and self-development. Today we will have a very unusual topic. Let's discuss whether it is possible to come from ordinary sex to real spiritual enlightenment. Yes, it sounds strange, and sex is so rarely associated with spirituality. But after all, sex is almost the most fundamental instinct in man, and sexual energy is the strongest. Nevertheless, for centuries sex has been taboo among all peoples, and today we will try to understand why. In addition, let's discuss what Osho says about sex, as one of the most famous spiritual teachers of the world. And of course, let's talk about the philosophy of Tantra as one of the very few religious and esoteric teachings directly related to sex and its study. And the main thing is to learn about the path that can be overcome from ordinary sex to true enlightenment, because many esotericists and religious mystics claim that this is one of the best and most direct ways to get it. By the way, why has human sexual energy always been limited if it is the strongest in the body? The reason is most likely that government officials and clergymen have always understood that sexual energy is paramount and the most powerful in man, and so they had to suppress it in every way possible, cut it down, and divert that energy elsewhere. After all, if you allow a person to be completely free in his sexuality, there are not enough methods to control him. Limit sexuality and control. The revered spiritual master Osho, speaking of sex, for example, often remarks, if you have to harness an bull into a cart, what do? You castrate him. You take away his sexual energy. Have you noticed the difference between a bull and an ox? What is the difference? An ox is just a thing, a slave designed for work. It is good for nothing else. A bull, on the other hand, is beauty itself. A bull is glorious. He's so magnificent. Look how he walks. Look how he treads like an emperor, and then look at the ox dragging the wagon at will. That is, if you limit a person's sexuality, he will be many times easier to control. Since time immemorial, we have been inculcated with cultural behavior based on restraint and self-control, that is, on the suppression of naturalness and nature itself and man. Many even argue that to make man cultural is to make him forget what nature is, to make him condemn it to its very foundations. And at the core of nature is sex, and everything arises from it. All of nature reproduces itself in the continuous ecstasy of existence. A blooming tree, a blossoming flower ready to fertilize, is sexy. A bird singing, which we find beautiful, is a sexual invitation. The bird seeks its mate, calls to it, its singing is sexual. Where there is something beautiful, there is sex. If you want to destroy nature, condemn sex, condemn love, create moral standards around life. These moral norms, however beautiful they may seem, will be like marble tombs, and you will be inside them. Your morality is a kind of death. Before death kills you, society kills you, is how Osho writes about sex. What does Osho and other Tantra spiritual teachers say about sex? Your mind is the society within you. It's everything you've absorbed along with your upbringing and social experience. The mind is the most dead thing in you, and sex is the most alive thing in you. That's why the mind is always against sex, always suppressing it. They are enemies. The mind is a dead thing, and sex is a life force. Whenever you move into sex, the mind becomes a moralizer. Sex is the most living thing in you, because life comes from it. You are born thanks to it. You can give birth thanks to it. Wherever there is life, sex is the source, Osho says of sex, explaining his philosophy of Tantra.
Subscribe to the Summary Club and watch short versions of the most popular and useful videos every day.
To make a man a slave, you need to imbue him with guilt about his naturalness. Everyone carries guilt, as if you were naturally wrong, as if to be natural meant to be wrong. Tantra, on the contrary, calls for moral emancipation and liberation, getting rid of guilt, complexes, and stereotypes. The philosophy of Tantra, or the path of enlightenment through sex. The way and philosophy of Tantra is the way of Tao, and the way of Tao is the way of all-embracing liberation and full acceptance of all your energies and qualities. Tantra teaches, don't deny your inner nature. To be enlightened is to be natural. And if you love nature in all its intoxicating sexual splendor, if you dissolve into love and ecstasy, you will feel it. Tantra is the way of permissiveness. For her there is nothing that she would shy away from. And one of her tenets is, bring your feelings and emotions to a red-hot state, but in the moment of peak relax, and watch how these amazing energies work. Tantra aimed to create people capable of enjoying life in the here and now, free from inner blocks and wobbly self-limitations. Tantra, by its philosophy, teaches that all of us are already born enlightened, which means that being natural, being ourselves, is the only true thing we can be. God is knocking to you through a man, a woman. Listen to Tantra, which says that the energy of love, the energy of sex, is the foundation of life. If you are unable to let love flow through you, if you are cold and closed, life will not carry you. Love your inner nature. Sex is meditation. Sexual energy, as the primary basis of life, has great spiritual significance. Hence the question, is it possible to use sex as a doorway to higher levels of consciousness? When sex becomes meditation, it begins to blossom. This blossoming is the movement toward the highest. Create meditation out of sex, and that intimacy will be fulfilling for you. Immerse yourself in sex, but very consciously. Don't let sex become an unconscious impulse, and then it will lead you to unity. Sex becomes a sacred mystery if you engage in it with your being. A central tantric practice is to turn off the mind during intimacy, dive into intimacy with understanding and love, meditate on sex and watch its quality begin to transform. This is what Eastern people do with Tantra, sex, and philosophy. Then the energy that was previously used for sexual realization begins to transform into another state and flow to consciousness. How do you go from sex to enlightenment? At the peak of sexual orgasm, it is possible to become more conscious than ever, because no other experience is as deeply felt, no other can compare in completeness. Your whole being vibrates, radiates energy, it is completely absorbed by it, and all thoughts suddenly vanish by themselves. In orgasm, you are what you are, your being is what it is. In this moment, if you can achieve awareness, sex can open the door to the divine, make you whole, and enrich your relationship with your partner with an all-pervading sensuality. In Tantra philosophy, this is what we might call the path from animal sex to enlightenment, or the spiritual practice of enlightenment through sex. According to Tantra, orgasm is a connection to the universe. You become part of the primal energy of all things. People who practice Tantra learn to love everything, overcoming their barriers, come out to pure pleasure. The person who has mastered at least an understanding of the true nature of sex and the freedom it can help achieve will experience an increase in sexuality and awareness that will present itself to a trembling consciousness as a revolutionary force capable of elevating its possessor. At least, that's what Osho said in his lectures on sex, discussing the development of sexual energy, the philosophy of Tantra and things like that. Many other Tantra teachers say the same thing, although now of course with the departure of Osho, the way of self-development through sex is not so popular in the world, but it is also a good reason to think about who really benefits from limiting our sexuality and freedom. We ourselves or those who are trying to control us. And yes, we are aware that this is a controversial topic and this path is very close not only to enlightenment but also to moral degradation and the like. Especially if you can't keep a wise balance without kinking to any side. But what to do? This is exactly the way of Tantra, so to speak, walking on a razor blade over an abyss, sometimes even without a safety net. So write in the comments what you yourself think about it, and we'll be happy to discuss it all with you. Wisdom and love to you, and of course more often visit our website and video channel of training and self-development. Read and watch dozens of other interesting and useful materials on this and many other topics of self-development, both physical and intellectual and even spiritual. All the best. And friend, don't forget to subscribe to the Summary Club for becoming more successful, educated, kinder and wiser every day. Save hundreds of hours and dollars spending on boring regular education. Feel free to write your opinions and questions about each video. We read all the comments. In addition, go to our official website, where you can find reading materials or watch other videos on channel and links in the description. All the best.